So, if you are anything like I was before we adopted, you want to know all of the information. And one of the things that I was so curious about before we adopted was how do you make it through the first several months with your new child? Because let's be real, there's a lot of awkward moments, there's a lot of growing pains, and you really just want to know how to be prepared. And the truth is, if you are not prepared for how difficult these first few months could be, you may be tempted to throw in the towel and say, maybe this isn't for me. So today we're going to explain what to expect when you are expecting to adopt in those first few months. Hey there, and welcome back to my channel, Adopt Informed. And if you're new here, my name is Katie, and I'm an adoptive mom to 3 awesome kids who came to us through the US foster care system. And now I work as an adoption consultant where I lead a support group and I do one-on-one consultations to help families from all across the country throughout their adoption journeys. And are you wondering if adoption is right for you? Maybe you're kind of curious if it is. If so, I have a free quiz down below. Are you ready to adopt? So make sure you grab that if you haven't yet, take the quiz and see if you are ready to take the next step towards adoption. Okay, so in the past, in this video right here, I have talked about what to expect the very first time you meet your child. However, I got a great question during my recent Q&A video, which I will link above if you haven't seen it yet, but there was a question I got from a couple people about what to expect from like the first few months of an adoptive placement. And I decided that was too big of a question to answer within that already pretty long Q&A. So that's what this video is about today, answering that question. So thank you for the video idea, because I think this is a super important topic that I haven't really covered in this in-depth of a way before. So first, let's talk about what those first few months are like for you versus what they feel like for your child, because we experience very different emotions during those early stages than our children do, and for good reason. So let's start out by talking about the first few times you meet your child and you visit them. We already have that in-depth video, so I'm not going to go into a bunch of tips about that, but if you think about this very first time you're meeting your child, and the first few visits after that, you are filled with excitement. You've been looking forward to this. You've been waiting and dreaming and praying. You've gone through classes. You've done your home study. You have been preparing for this for possibly many years. You've had a lot of time to consider what this will feel like and what it will be like. And for you, it's overall an extremely positive experience to be meeting your child and welcoming them into your home. It's a dream that has come true, right? However, your child during this stage is going to be feeling a lot of mixed emotions. Sure, they could be excited. They could be happy about having a potential family, but they're going to have so much nervousness about meeting you. Whereas you have probably heard almost every piece of information possible about this child in your disclosure meeting, this child very likely knows very little about you. They might know basics, but you are going in with way more information than they have. So it's kind of an uneven or unlevel playing field if you think about it. And they are worried that you might reject them. They are worried that you might not actually be a safe family. It's very possible that these kids have been in multiple foster homes over the course of their time in foster care. They may have had really negative experiences where maybe they weren't actually safe within a foster home, or they weren't loved, or maybe they were sent away because that family didn't think they could handle them. And so they have this sense of rejection they're carrying with them, and they're carrying that into this time of meeting you. So as you can see, vastly different emotions going on for you as the parent versus your adopted child. Then let's talk about the second phase, which is the home visits, when they start visiting you and maybe they start spending the night, and then those early days of when they've moved in. So in this phase, you are just enjoying every moment. You're soaking it up. You're so excited to be with your child. You are loving it. You're building memories. You're so excited to get to know your child better. You are coming up with fun things for you guys to do. You're building those memories with one another. And for you, it's overall a really positive experience. You can't wait to introduce them to your family and your friends. And honestly, at that point, you're probably super impressed by their behavior. You're probably like, Oh, well, they acted like, these caseworkers or these past foster parents said all these things like this kid has these problems. And you're like, I'm not seeing any of those. And it can be easy to start to feel like, hey, maybe they're just going to be great now that they're in my home and they have this structure and this love. Maybe that's why they're doing so well. And so you can start to feel really encouraged as an adoptive parent and be like, wow, I really am cut out for this thing. I'm doing everything right. I'm clearly making my child feel safe because they're acting so well. And yet, when we shift to the experience of the adopted child in these early days, you're going to see a different story. Your child is, in fact, behaving very well. They're on their best behavior. But this isn't coming from a place of, I feel safe, I feel loved, therefore I'm now on my best behavior. This is actually the opposite. This is coming from, I am so afraid of being rejected. I am so afraid of not being taken care of or not being given the things I need. I am in survival mode and I am expressing fawning behaviors oftentimes. So I do have a video where we've talked about the stress and fear responses. We think of like fight, flight, but there's also fawn. And so fawning is when we are just acting really good and we're just being really positive and we're saying nice things to the person that we're with all the time. And that is actually a stress response. And so when we see our kids on their very, very best behavior when they first move in, we need to be able to view that for what it is. It is not because we are amazing parents. Well, you might be an amazing parent, but that is not where that's coming from in that early of a day. That is coming from your child is afraid to show who they really are. They're afraid to do anything wrong in fear that you may send them away, in fear that you may reject them, in fear that you may not take care of them as well because you don't like them as much, because unfortunately, a lot of these kids have experienced that, where they have to please adults in order to have their needs met. So just know, see it for what it is. You are experiencing a very different perspective than your child is. And then we get into a few weeks or a few months of your child living with you and everything has completely turned on its head. You as the parent are starting to feel so discouraged. And why? Because oftentimes this is when your child's behavior has kind of gone off the rails. At least that's what it feels like. It feels like your child's behavior has done a complete 180 and they're a different person than who they were before. You might ask yourself, did I make a mistake? I must not be cut out for this. I must be a horrible parent. Why is this happening? Why is my child struggling so much? And you might start to feel like you don't even like spending time with your kid. You might start to regret the decision that you made. You probably are feeling so overwhelmed by all of their meltdowns and all of their mood swings that you are just completely burnt out. And so on our side, as the parent during this point, it can feel like this is not going well. This is bad now. This is what happened. Why were they so good before? Why are they not now? But if we look at the child's perspective, there's an answer to that. And that answer can be encouraging to us to know that this likely won't last forever. So your child during this time is acting out a lot. They may show rejecting behaviors. I'm going to say rejecting behaviors because the truth is that's not really what it is. It's a survival thing. So they may kind of push you away a bit. They might be acting out. They might be yelling at you. They might be saying they hate you. They might be saying they wish they were where they were before, maybe at a previous foster home or with their biological family. They're going to start lashing out towards you. But the truth is they are exhausted from keeping it all together. If we go back a step and we look at that phase when you were so happy because your kid was so good, what was your kid doing? They were holding it all together all the time. They were on their best behavior. They were so afraid to let the mask slip and let you see who they are. And now, because they held it together for so long, they have flipped a switch and they are going the complete opposite direction. They are exhausted from keeping it together for so long with all of these emotions running through their minds. And now they can't keep it together anymore. And so they unleash this behavior. Besides, they don't even really think that you will continue to love them and that you won't just reject them. And so this behavior is a test, and it's a very important test. They want to see if you will love them if they continue to act this way. They are testing your love. And that is extremely hard to deal with, right? Because if we think about an adult relationship where two people are, in a romantic relationship of some sort, testing your partner's love is not a healthy thing to do. That's a sign of an unhealthy relationship. But again, we're not dealing with an adult with a fully formed mind and a fully developed brain and prefrontal cortex. We are dealing with a kid who's in a crisis, and we are dealing with a child who has experienced so much trauma and hurt over their lives, and they're still a child. And so we are going to see these behaviors, and I'm here to tell you it's normal. It's not easy, it's not fun, but it is normal. And so I hope that that on its own will kind of give you a picture of what to expect. And I know it doesn't sound very cheery, it sounds really difficult, but things do get better over time. And there are things that you can do throughout this process to set you and your child up for success in the long run. It is going to be hard in the short term. There's no way for me to really tie it up into a nice little bow. It's going to be hard. Those were some of the hardest days of my entire life in the early days of our adoptions, the early 6 months to a year. I'm talking about 6 months to a year. It could be this hard. So please know that when you're going through that, if you're going through that right now and you happen upon this video, it is actually normal, as abnormal as it feels. So I want to give you some tips for how to survive these early days and how to get through them when it is so hard for so long. And so I'm going to divide this up into two sections. We're going to talk about before the child moves in, when you're just doing visits, and then after they move in. So before your child moves in, my very first piece of advice here is enjoy the calm before the storm. I know that sounds a little bit foreboding and a little ominous, but really, those are sweet days. There are sweet moments there. You're going to have memories from those times that you're going to look back on really fondly. And you should just focus on creating some good memories, because that's going to help sustain you when things get hard. I recommend writing down those things. Write down the good things that have happened. Write down the things you're really starting to love about your child. Write them down so when the really hard days come, you can look back at that. My second point under this is to keep the visits chill. Now, I know I said build good memories, have fun times with your kids, but we want to make sure that we're not setting a precedent for something that we cannot maintain. Like, for example, always going out and going mini golfing or going to an arcade or going to a trampoline park. Those aren't things that you can probably do all of the time unless your budget is a whole lot bigger than ours. Those are not things you can maintain. Don't bring them huge presents all the time that you can't keep up with once they move in, because they will start to expect that. So many kids in these situations have no clue what it's like to be in a normal family. And so you are painting a picture for them of what a normal family is every time that you interact with them. So I recommend keeping your visits more chill, going to a library, going to a park, bringing a craft or a puzzle or a board game for you to do together. Think about normal family things that you could often do at home or on a low budget. Things that are going to help you connect, but it's not this big flashy thing of look at all the stuff we can give you, because that can be very overwhelming for a child. It can also make them feel like they have to show a lot of gratitude when they're still just feeling really unsure about everything. So finding really simple things to do can set you up for success in those early days. Now let's talk about after move-in. This is when things start to get really hard, right? My number one piece of advice here is to anticipate that things are going to be very difficult, and anticipate you'll see a big behavioral shift in your child within that first month or so of them living with you. And my motto is prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. That might sound pessimistic to you, but I'm more thinking make sure you're set up to handle things if they do get really hard, but we're still going to be hoping and praying that the transition goes smoothly, and we're going to be trying everything in our power to help it go smoothly. My second tip under here is to remember that our number one goal during these early weeks and months is building trust and a sense of safety for your child. That matters more than anything else. I know I've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs before. I'll put a little picture here of this. But in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it talks about how you cannot move up that pyramid to that self-actualization of that person really knowing who they are and what they want and valuing themselves. You can't get there until you meet the bottom two levels, which are those physiological needs like food, water, shelter, and also the safety needs of feeling like connected, feeling like you have what you need emotionally and physically to survive. So we have to focus on those basic needs before we can focus on the other things. So we are talking about very basic things to focus on. You need to focus on creating a consistent schedule so they know what to expect. You need to focus on things like always making sure they know that they can go get food, they can go get water, they can use the restroom whenever they need to. Put night lights through the hallway. I'll link some night lights below, like a pack you can get off of Amazon that they just they're automatic. So as soon as it gets dark, they'll turn on, and when it gets light again, they will turn off. But make sure that they are feeling safe at night, that they can get out of their bed and get you if they need you, if they have a bad dream or, they need something else, or that they can get to the kitchen to get water or whatever they need, or get to the restroom and be able to see and feel safe. Those types of things are really important. Have some food that's out all the time. Snacks, some healthy snack options that they can get whenever they want in those early days, because food insecurity is a real thing with kids in foster care, and that can kind of help prevent some of that food hoarding. It can help prevent some of that food anxiety for them. You want to make sure that their room is comfortable, that they have a nice nightlight in there that's bright enough for them to feel safe. You want to make sure that you are doing things, little things, like maybe playing music that they enjoy or that calms them, or making some of their favorite foods, even if they're not healthy, because they probably won't be. But all those things help build that safety and that trust, and those are essential for the early days. And another way you can build that safety and trust is by reinforcing to them that you are there for them. You are a safe person to go to, and you can help them if they need anything at all. That could be emotionally, that could be physical needs. You are there to care for them, and reminding them of that constantly, asking them what they need, just shows them that they're being taken care of. And the third and last tip here is, just like we talked about having kind of chill visits, we want to focus in those early months on having a lot of chill time at home as a family. Focus more on that than on get-togethers or activities or sports. And I know how tempting it can be when you are bringing these kids into your home and they maybe have never had an opportunity to ever be in a sport or an activity or take piano lessons. It is very, very tempting to sign them up for a bunch of things so that they can have those experiences. And you may find too that your kids are actively asking for those things. However, I would be very careful, especially in the first 3 months or so, of putting kids into things like that too quickly. I would also avoid going on any sort of big vacation. I would avoid doing big get-togethers with families within the first couple weeks. I would just take some chill time at home. This reinforces to the child that you are the parent and that you together are a family unit. And it shows them this is our family who lives in our house. This is the mom in the family, the dad in the family maybe. This is the brother and sister. We are all here. We are a family. This is our core unit. And by spending more time together at home, it reinforces that. It also can lower your kids' anxiety and give them a time to just process everything that's going on to them. They can adjust to one thing at a time before adding more things to their schedule and more people into their lives that are new. Some families actually practice what's called cocooning in adoption. Now, this is not something that we did to any extreme level, and I think you can kind of adapt it for whatever you want. Some people do extreme cocooning where for the first few weeks, no one except for them meets the child. So they don't introduce the child to anyone in the extended family until they've had a few weeks together of just being them at home. I think this is done more so with really young children typically, but I do see a benefit of adapting this to life with even a slightly older kid, of being we are mostly going to spend time at home as a family, but we're not going to be as extreme maybe as someone with a toddler that they're adopting. Because you also don't want to isolate yourself and then you're struggling because you haven't been able to see anyone else except for your child who has a lot of needs right now. So adapt it for whatever level you want, but I do think there's a benefit in having a little bit more of a closed off mentality in those early weeks so that bonding can really happen between you and your child. This is the thing. Basically, I'm just saying, don't overschedule them. Don't put them in a bunch of activities right away. Spend time as a family doing similar things that you did during those chill visits, like going to the park, going to the library, playing board games, doing a puzzle. all these really simple types of things. One thing my daughter and I did this past week that I think would be a good opportunity if you wanted to just like get out of the house but still do something chill, we went to a coffee shop and I brought some of our kid puzzles with us, and we had little coffee drinks. They weren't coffee, but of course my daughter thought they were. And we just did a puzzle there, and it was so relaxing and so fun. So that could be an option as well. If you're like, maybe you're an extrovert and you're like, I have to get out of this house or I'm gonna go crazy. Feel free to adapt things for what works for you. And I will say, just in general, I would not overwhelm kids with extended family right when they move in. There are so many adoption videos. I think this is particularly with international adoption. They're like the sappy video montages, and I'm not poo-pooing on them because I watched many of those in my time and cried over them. But there's something I've noticed now, being on the other side as an adoptive parent, I find really interesting, is so often when they're bringing that child home from the other country, there's a huge group of family members just like waiting and like cheering for this kid when they arrive in this country. And I cannot help but think about how overwhelming that has to be for that kid. So I would recommend, do not do that. I would recommend, even when you're adopting from foster care, do not have like your whole extended family at the house the first time they show up or the first time they move in. Just give them time to ease into it. Show them pictures of the family, talk about the family. Maybe you want to do what we did and make a little book about the family so that they can get to know them before they get to know them. But I would just take those things slow, meet extended family in smaller groups at a time so that's not so overwhelming, and play it by ear. So there you go. That is what to expect from the first few months of bringing your adopted child home. Some tips to hopefully help you get through those rough days, because I'm telling you, it is really hard, but there are silver linings, and it's so cool. Now that we are 5 and 6 years removed from the early days with our kids, I look back and I see how much my kids have grown and changed since then. And I'm just absolutely amazed by what God has done in their lives and the ways that they've matured, the things they've overcome. And I still have really great memories from those early days when we had the calm before the storm and sweet things they said and did. And so yes, basically I'll leave you with 2 things. I can promise you it's going to be hard, but I can also promise you that you will see growth and change over time with your child. And it's really cool to look back and see all the things that they've been able to overcome in their lives. So as always, adoption is a beautiful but difficult thing to do, but so worth it. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, that means you're my favorite. Don't tell the others. And so first, I'm gonna ask you, if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. I am getting so close to 10,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. It's a big milestone. So if you can help us get there, that would be amazing. But I also want to do a secret question in the comments. So I would love to know in the comments this time, what is your favorite chill activity to do? Mine recently is puzzles. I am obsessed with puzzles. I know I said I brought like a puzzle to the coffee shop with my daughter. We are both obsessed with them. I have a huge puzzle over here just outside of the camera that I've been just gotten started on recently. I love puzzles. So I'd love to hear in the comments, what's your favorite kind of more chill activity? Maybe it's going to a park, maybe it's reading a book, playing a board game. I don't know, you tell me. And that's how I'll know who my people are who made it all the way to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you very soon.